Hello, this is part A of a two-part series on the installation and tone of an Artec archtop guitar pickup. If you're interested in an Artec pickup, you probably have either a low-value archtop acoustic or else you don't have a lot of clearance at the end of the neck and you're wondering whether the pickup will fit at all. This video shows the installation, where part B has the sound samples. The guitar is a friend's Silvertone, but they were cheap instruments at the time and the years haven't really improved them. This one had two top cracks and a fractured neck joint. I'd offered to attempt repairs or at least stabilize the damage, and since I was going to work on it anyway, to electrify the instrument at the same time. Like a lot of older arched acoustics, this guitar has comparatively little clearance between the strings and the top. Arched electrics usually have more space at the cantilever, and because of structural issues it needed either a suspended pickup or a surface mount. The Artec turned out to be the only inexpensive pickup that would have fit, and even that was a gamble. Once we settled on the pickup, I went ahead and did a fully floating installation to match the pickup itself, and the controls went on a new pickguard that I cut from a blank that was for another project. I think I might have spent $30 on the entire conversion and the repairs. The Artec is a low output humbucker with blade type pole pieces. The blades are 50 millimeters wide, and the casing is about 9 millimeters high, which gives this guitar a millimeter to spare between the top of the pickup and the strings when the strings are fretted at the top fret. The pickup could have been mounted closer to the strings, but that would have limited playing to the lower positions. The back of the pickup is coated with epoxy, which you could shave off, I suppose. That won't give too much more clearance. Perhaps more importantly, the pickup lead exits from the back of the casing and is directed straight into the guitar top. It's fairly rigid too, being 2-wire and a shield and an insulator, and this will cut into the amount of available clearance unless you have a lot of curvature in the top at the end of the neck. This guitar is fairly flat, so in order to route the pickup lead, I had to drill a hole through the top and run the lead inside the body. Now, I missed the brace when I drilled the hole, and the place where the hole is where underneath where the original pickup is, or pickguard is rather. So if the pickup is ever removed, the original pickguard will cover the hole up and there's no structural or cosmetic issue remaining. The pickguard mounted controls required miniature pots for clearance. Now these are both 500K audio taper, which was the only value StewMac had for a miniature pot. The tone control has a 0.1 microfarad capacitor, which is a larger value than humbuckers usually get, but given the high resistance of the tone pot, I thought it was appropriate. Because it is an audio taper pot, most of the action of the controls between 1 and 3, and that comes out in the demonstration. As I've mentioned, the POLEPIECES blades are 50 millimeters wide, so within that limitation, string spacing is not a problem. As you can see, the coils are not centered within the casing, so bear that in mind. This guitar has a 1 3/4 inch nut and a fairly wide fingerboard and a fairly wide bridge, which complicates the actual installation. The first and sixth strings are basically 50 millimeters apart. I had to be careful about getting the installation just right, or the placement just right rather. Fortunately, the treble side mounting bracket was essentially where it needed to be and could be left as such. The bass side bracket was not. Now these brackets are steel and are not easy to bend with a couple of pairs of pliers, which was what I was doing. A bench vise would have helped quite a bit. Basically what you have to do is straighten out the bracket and then rebend it at the right point. The brackets come pre-drilled for 2 screws in each bracket, but in this case I could only use 3 in total because after the bracket was rebent, the inner of the 2 bass side holes was at the end of the fingerboard and there's no more wood underneath it. The strings are a bit farther from the pickup than I would normally have them, but unfortunately they have to be that high in order to keep the strings from fretting out. Because this is meant to be played mostly as an acoustic, I've strung it with DR pure nickel round wound jazz lights. That they are round wound will be glaringly obvious in the sound clips. Now bronze strings do not work with this pickup very well. I tried it and the sound is not so good.